Majority of Americans back the Mueller probe. 63% say the investigation that Trump campaign ties into Russia should continue. It comes as Trump is attacking Mueller for a, quote, illegal investigation and going after the Department of Justice.
Our Justice Department and our FBI have to start doing their job and doing it right and doing it now. Because people are angry. People are angry. What's happening is a disgrace. And at some point, I wanted to stay out, but at some point, if it doesn't straighten out properly, I want them to do their job. I will get involved, and I'll get in there if I have to. Disgraceful.
So all of this, as Trump's lawyer, Rudy Giuliani, says that he is putting together a counter report challenging Mueller's legitimacy. Let's bring in our panel. With me, Bill Kristol is the Weekly Standards editor at large. Francesca Chambers, the Daily Mail's White House correspondent, and former U.S. Attorney Guy Lewis is back with us for another segment. Bill, let me start with you, if I may. 63% backing the Mueller probe. This is a probe that the president has called a witch hunt, illegal. He has gone after individuals within that investigation. Is this all backfiring against the president?
You know, I don't know if it's backfiring, but I think the assault on the Mueller probe, on the Justice Department, on Sessions, on Rosenstein, on the FBI, had some success. It moved some Republicans. It certainly moved some Republican members of Congress to go along, and it moved Republican voters to be somewhat more skeptical of the Mueller investigation than they were at the beginning. But I think it peaked. I think it's sort of that assault has run out of steam, and if anything now is the trend is a little bit the other way. Only 61% of Republicans don't like the Mueller investigation. You could say 61% is a big number, and it's bigger than I would like it to be. But it's not, 80 or 90%, and it really limits, I think, Trump's ability now to do what he would like to do, to fire Sessions, to get rid of Rosenstein, to shut down the investigation. So, yes, I think the big story of the summer, the last 4 or 5 months, politically, has been repeated assaults by Trump and his surrogates on the Justice Department, on Mueller, on the investigation, attempts to delegitimize it. And basically, they've had some success, but fundamentally, I think, have failed.
So, Guy, with the developments today that the Mueller probe had one more guilty plea, or one more deal. Should anyone who's watching this feel that Bob Mueller and the investigation are in fact countering the negative charges that are coming from the president?
I think Bill Kristol's 100% on point on this. I mean, let's take just a quick run through. Papadopoulos convicted, Manafort convicted after trial, General Flynn convicted, Cohen convicted, Sam Patton today convicted, 12 Russian spies charged, 13 Russian nationals charged, Rick Gates convicted, and then a couple of other small fries for lying to the FBI. And again, I think Bill's right. At the peak of that attack on the Justice Department, had Mueller started tripping and falling, and frankly, had they lost the Manafort case, we'd be in a different position. But so far, they're batting 1,000, and that's pretty good.
So to that effect, Francesca, what are you hearing in terms of the White House's sentiments with the president's approach, with Trump's approach? Is this attack? I mean, we've heard this in the past from Giuliani. He's wanted to make this a public argument against the credibility of the Mueller investigation. But you can't look at it and think that it's working when you have 63% of the American public, according to this poll, support the Mueller probe.
Well, the White House this week has been letting the president do the talking. We didn't have a White House press briefing at all, although the president has addressed reporters and taken their questions in different settings this week. So the White House really distancing themselves from the Mueller probe and from these cases involving Manafort and Cohen. And today is a very important date because, if you recall, September 1st is when originally that Rudy Giuliani predicted that Mueller's probe would be over. And at this point, that still could could be the case. It may be almost over, but as the other guests were pointing out, it surely doesn't show any signs of stopping, and at least not before September 1st. Time is really running out on that. And so I'm hearing from people who are familiar with the case that he could be starting to wrap it up, and maybe that's why he hasn't responded to the letter that the president's legal team sent a few weeks ago, in which they offered essentially to have the president sit down, but under a very limited set of circumstances. Or it could be possible that, given the new information that's come out of these other cases, that Mueller's team could be chasing down new leads, and that's why they're waiting in order to wrap up this investigation.
Yeah, you actually brought up Giuliani. Let me play you guys his soundbite. He spoke to NBC about the Mueller probe not too long ago this afternoon. Take a listen.
The Justice Department has a rule that you should stay out of politically charged investigations within 60 days of the election. I hope he respects that.
Or what?
Or nothing. I mean, otherwise it just affects how people look at the legitimacy of his investigation. Is it political, or is it a real law enforcement investigation?
Guy, what is your reaction to that? I mean, you and I were talking about this earlier. Where do you think the Mueller probe is if you had to put it on a 100-yard field? I mean, where are we right now?
50-yard line. We've still got another half of 2 quarters to play in the game. We're halfway through. And I think the next 60, listen, I do think that Bob Mueller, he's a stickler. I mean, he really is. Worked with him a long time. He's a by-the-book guy, cross the T's, dot the I's. He's not going to indict anything in the next 60 days. He's going to continue to do what he's doing, which is get his ducks in a row. They're going to continue to subpoena documents. They're going to continue to brief and debrief witnesses and prepare for the next series of assaults post-election.
So you don't think there will be an indictment between now and the elections after at least Labor Day to say between, I mean, it could have anything over the weekend, I doubt it, but between Labor Day and the election?
I don't think so. If I'm a betting man, I bet against it. Okay. Bob's careful, he's cautious, he's conservative, and I think that's the track he'll follow.
All right, so Bill, I know that Giuliani, he's told the Daily Beast that he wants to challenge Mueller's legitimacy and that it's essentially coming from Google. I mean, is that really the best plan, Giuliani trying to really question the legitimacy of Bob Mueller?
Well, it probably is their best plan, because what do they ultimately have to do? They have to hope to have a decent election this November. They might lose the House, but hold the Senate. And then they're presuming, I assume, that there will be a Mueller report that could be quite damning. But they need to be able to hold enough Republicans to not vote to either impeach or convict. I think it probably gets to that. And I think the way they do that is by discrediting Mueller, the FBI, the Justice Department, the whole apparatus that's been going after Donald Trump in the way Giuliani puts it and the way Trump puts it. And look, they have made some progress. We shouldn't be too complacent. And things could happen. He could fire. I mean, he says he's going to fire Sessions after the election. What happens then? I remain very worried that Trump, when cornered, is not going to sit and passively accept Bob Mueller going ahead methodically developing a case against him for either collusion and or obstruction. I remain very worried that Trump lashes out and thinks that maybe he's got enough support from Republicans. A lot depends on the election results, I think, to act to try to remove this thing that he has been trying to remove for a long time. Again, I think the big story so far, the last 3, 4, 5 months, is big assault, some success, but repulsed so far. The system stands, the institutions stand, but I remain wary and worried that Trump is not going to give up.
So, Francesca, really quickly, do you think the White House sees this as a political fight, not a legal fight?
Well, will certainly turn into a political fight if the president does fire the attorney general after the elections. He said that he will stay until then. The president has said that Sessions will stay until then. But it's pretty clear from the comments of Lindsey Graham and Chuck Grassley that the president is paving the way to be able to get rid of Sessions after those elections are over.
Yeah.
Hey, I'm Melber from MSNBC. You can see more of our videos right here, or better yet, subscribe to our YouTube channel below. You could have been anywhere in the world, but you're here with us, and we appreciate that.